You're listening to The Geek Awakens with Mitch,
Matt,
Tabitha,
and Lydia.
Hey everybody, Mitch here with another episode of The Geek Awakens presents Artist Alley Spotlight. Tonight I am joined once again by Caleb Palmquist. Caleb, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So you've got another Kickstarter for Modern Mythology, Medusa. Tell us what this book's about.
Sure. So Medusa is a one-shot comic book. It's about Medusa, but it sort of recontextualizes her as a globe-trotting treasure hunter like Tomb Raider. And she's on a mission of revenge. So if you know anything about the myth of Medusa, you'll know that she was transformed into a monster. She was sort of a mortal human, and then she was transformed into this snake lady after Poseidon had his way with her. Um, and so she was transformed by Athena, but she was victimized by Poseidon. And then, of course, the other gods kind of teamed up to send Perseus after her. And so she's kind of got a vendetta against all the gods. And in this story, she's taken down all those other gods, and it's only Poseidon that's left. And she's following a tip that she got as to his whereabouts. And that's where we find her.
Yeah, this setup just sounds so amazing. So, like, what was the inspiration? Why turn Medusa into a treasure hunter?
Well, so this is part of a spinoff of a series of anthologies that I do called Modern Mythology. And a few years ago, an artist friend of mine named Daniel Hooker did a pinup for one of those books. And in that pinup, it was a Medusa on a biplane and or a seaplane rather, and he had this story idea about Medusa sort of seeking revenge, and the Tomb Raider part wasn't in there yet, but I asked him if I could develop the pinup into a whole story, and he said yes. So that original pinup is available. Every backer gets that for free on the campaign. But then the Tomb Raider part is sort of I'm just like really into Tomb Raider, and I was like, she's traveling around the world searching for clues to the whereabouts of these gods that she wants to take down, sort of Kill Bill style. But where would you find clues to the whereabouts of Greek gods? And that would probably be in ancient ruins. And so I was like, Tomb Raider. There you go. That was how that came together.
So you mentioned the Modern Mythology anthology sets that you put out a few years ago. For this campaign, you've got remastered versions of the books, including The Hero's Journey and Folklore Retold. These both feature new stories. So kind of give us a heads up, like what are these new stories about that you can tell us, and like what else are in these other anthologies?
Sure. So those two books were published in 2019 and 2021, and they're both collections of stories retelling classic myths from around the world in the modern day. And they were written and illustrated by a team of writers and artists from around the world. I did some writing on them, but mainly I was the editor and sort of organizer of those. The news stories that are being included are both about Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. And similarly, they are basically inspired by pinups that had been done previously by Daryl Toe, who is the artist behind my Unicorn Vampire Hunter series. And he had done a couple of pinups of Sun Wukong, a sort of modern version. And so Greg Anderson Elise, who is the creator of Isnana the Werespider, is writing these two stories. And then Janssen Carbonell, who's a very talented artist, is going to be drawing them. And in the first story, we're going to just meet Sun Wukong, the modern version. And then in the second version, I mean, sorry, the second story, which is included in Folklore Retold, Sun Wukong is going to team up with Greg's character as Nana the Werespider. So there, if you're like sort of following the breadcrumbs there, eventually there will be a third story. And spoiler alert, eventually we're going to be coming back with a third volume of Modern Mythology, which is going to be a big collaboration between a lot of people. We're in the very early stages of that, and there will be a third story kind of completing the trilogy of those Sun Wukong stories. So that's kind of the stories that are getting included. And then we're also doing sort of a visual facelift on the interior design of the books, the original versions. I was going to look to see if I had some in my stack of books over here, but they're sold out. That's part of the reason why I'm doing a remastered version. Um, and the original Hero's Journey and Folklore Retold are designed differently on the inside, and I wanted to kind of redesign the pages between the stories so that they are like of a kind. Um, so that's kind of what we're doing with those remasters in addition to the new stories.
Nice. So let's go back to Medusa for a little bit. Who else is on the creative team for this comic?
Okay. So I wrote it. My name is Caleb Palmquist, and then the artist is a woman named Chrissy Hops, who is a very cool artist. And she's been out of the game for a little bit because she was working for a video game company, and now she's back to doing comics. Um, and so I was lucky to snag her right at the beginning of that journey. And then it's colored by Dave Swartz, who is the artist actually behind my other vampire series, Vampire Detective in Space. He agreed to come on and color this series, and I think he did a really great job. And then the letterer is Dave Lentz, who also designed the logo of the book.
So Modern Mythology Medusa, it's a one shot.
Mhm.
Do you foresee like revisiting this character down the line?
I would love to. It kind of depends on kind of the reception of this. I definitely wrote it as a one shot, and it's a big book. It's 40 pages. So it's a whole story. I mean, it's one of the longest single issue comics I've ever written. And but that said, if people like it, if people resonate with it, then I can certainly imagine coming back to the character. I've also talked about potentially doing some other one-shot stories about other characters that kind of exist within that same world. Um, I won't say which characters. I'm sort of keeping that one close to my chest because I'm not yet sure whether or not I'll pursue that option. But yeah, I mean, long story short, I would love to do more stories with Medusa, but I'm not sure if I will yet or not.
So let's talk about some of the add-ons for this campaign. I mentioned, in the questions I sent you earlier, like the variant covers. What are some details on these? But also, like, I did notice, like the sticker that with Medusa that says "Stone Cold Killer."
Mhm.
That made me laugh so hard when I saw that.
Thank
So
you.
you're welcome. So yeah, so tell us about some of the other add-ons that people can get for this.
Sure. Well, like I said, everyone who backs a physical copy is going to get that original print, that pinup print by Daniel Hooker of Medusa that inspired the whole thing. And then we have that sticker. It's a 3-inch die cut vinyl sticker. And these stickers, I think, are almost kind of become a calling card of my books. I do one on every single campaign, and I'm very proud of them. I don't know if people necessarily pick up on this, but I put a lot of effort into these stickers, like designing the concepts around them. Um, and so this one is designed by Camry Lapko, who's been doing a lot of my stickers lately. Yeah, it says it's got Medusa, she's wearing sunglasses, says Stone Cold Killer, um, which I thought was funny. I looked it up, and other people have made the same joke, but I think Camry really killed it with the sticker design. And then, like you said, there's some variant covers. The cover A that we decided to go with is by Summer Dale, who's very talented. I like this cover a lot. And then cover B, is by Chrissy Hopps with colors by Dave Swartz, and that's kind of Medusa chilling on the plane, which is very much an homage to that original drawing that Daniel Hooker did. And then cover C is actually by Edward Gann, who is the partner of Daryl Toe, who is the Unicorn Vampire Hunter artist. Edward is also a storyboard artist. So he has worked for years on things like My Little Pony, the animated series. And normally he doesn't have time for illustrations and comics because he's very busy in the animation world. And this time he was kind of between jobs, so I snagged him um, to do this cover, and I think it really turned out awesome. Um, yeah, I think that that cover is one of my favorite pieces of art on this. We also have a metal cover available for anyone who likes a sort of virgin metal cover. Um, it's a sort of more of a high-end collector's item. I always like to experiment with different kind of options, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know if anyone's going to want this or not, but some people have expressed some interest in that. And then, of course, we have the two modern mythology books, which I've already talked about. And then if you're talking about add-ons, of course, you can get my other books that I've written, like Unicorn Vampire Hunter, Vampire Detective in Space, The Knight and the Lion. So
So if for everybody listening to this, if your name sounds familiar, you've been on this show a few times now.
mhm.
So I thought it would be fun to have like a little round of like this or that. And I did not give you these options in beforehand because I want just, kind of like off the cuff. For most of these, like it's kind of open to interpretation, but there are a couple that like it's very specific scenarios. But anyway, starting off, Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Marvel. I go back and forth. I think right now I'm a little more DC, but there will be times where it's like I look at my pull list and it's just all Marvel. I'm like, okay. As a writer, are you a plotter or pantser?
Oh, I'm a plotter, 100%. Yeah, I don't I tend to write out big long outlines. I mean, uh definitely with any of the series I got going. If you could see my hard drive, it's just full of long outlines. So I definitely, and the times when I have done like a sort of pantser thing, I've always regretted it in the end. So I like to plot things out.
For comics, single issue or graphic novel?
If I'm reading them, I like a graphic novel. That said, I'm a long time, Wednesday Warrior, so of course I get the single issues. I tend to get less than I used to. When I was in my 20s, for sure, I was spending a lot of money on a lot of single issues. And now it kind of depends. If I have a friend who's got a series that's being solicited, I'll get single issues, and then I have a few things I like to buy. But for the most part, if I'm just trying to catch up on a story, I'll do graphic novels. And of course, as a creator, I love being able to do a graphic novel all at once because it presents some storytelling opportunities that you don't get with single issues. That said, financially, it's way better deal for me to do single issues. So
Yeah. I yeah, my wallet would love for me to just do graphic novels, because I think in the long run it is more economical, but I'm I'm too far into the habit of every Wednesday after work going to the comic book shop, and
yeah,
I've got so many. Uh so would you rather be a pirate, ninja, or a zombie?
pirate, ninja, or zombie?
Mhm.
Definitely a pirate.
I I think I'm gonna go ninja.
Okay. Also a good choice. I don't zombie seems like bad to be.
Yeah.
Uh
Now, the follow-up question, would you rather fight a pirate, ninja, or a zombie?
oh, zombie for sure. Like classic zombie. Unless it's like a 28 days later zombie, then maybe not.
Yeah, yeah. If it's one of those zombies, I'm thinking probably pirate would be your best bet. Ninja, you have no idea where where they
Yeah,
are.
I think I would if they were if all three of those were trying to kill me, pirate and ninja would kill me pretty fast. Um, with a zombie, at least I could have some time while it ambled toward me to make a plan.
Right. Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs, 100%. Cats are what do you speaking of pirates, you know the show what's the Taika Waititi show about the pirates?
Oh, oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Our flag means death.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, so in that show they say, cats are witches and they have knives in their feet. I'm not a cat guy.
I'm gonna let it slide because I am
Okay.
very much a cat person. TV series or movies?
Typically I think TV series. Obviously, I went to film school and I love movies, but I think probably my favorite stories on the screen tend to be TV shows. Just like a lot more room for storytelling there.
Are you familiar with like that meme where it goes like, man, I don't know if I can watch like a 2 hour movie, but I can watch 4 hour long episodes of a TV show. Yeah, that's me, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've been
Yeah.
putting off like so I got one of the only uh streaming services I pay for is Peacock, and like I've been putting off watching Oppenheimer. Everyone's saying gotta watch Oppenheimer, and I'm like it's too long. But I over the last like 2 days watched the entire first season of Doctor Death, and like that's like 8 hours of TV, and that was easy for me to do.
Yeah. No question about it. Coffee or tea?
Tea. I used to be a big coffee guy, and then my body decided that it didn't like coffee anymore. Even though my taste buds still do. So I mainly drink green tea or yerba mate.
Yeah, I've been a coffee person forever. I'm trying to become more of a tea person, but like if I still have the options for whatever reason, I still gravitate towards that cup of coffee. On road trips, podcasts or music?
Oh, podcasts. I have found that a podcast, I don't know, for whatever reason, like the cadence, it's a lot easier to like keep me engaged um, and focused. I find that music or even audiobooks can tend to be like sort of make me drowsy. But podcasts, especially if there's multiple people on it and they're like arguing or whatever, or talking over each other, that keeps me going. Yeah, I'll usually start with an audiobook on a long road trip and then switch to a podcast when I start to get a little drowsy.
Yeah, it varies for me. Like first off, if I'm, it matters if I'm driving by myself or if I'm with somebody. If I'm with somebody, it's almost always going to be music.
Sure.
But yeah, like if I'm, and especially if I'm driving by myself and I'm starting to get tired, I'm going to put music on. It's a lot easier to keep myself awake if I'm, singing badly and loudly to, something from 2004.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. My last question, dragons or unicorns?
Oh man, that's a tough question. So I've always been a big unicorn guy, ever since I was a kid. I obviously wrote a comic book about unicorns, but I've also more recently written a comic book about dragons. The dragon one I co-wrote with my wife, and her thing is dragons. In fact, when we got married, there were two wedding cakes, and one was a unicorn and one was a dragon. Uh, and so I for me it's going to be unicorns, for sure.
Nice. So, Caleb, is there anything upcoming that you can tease?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Speaking of dragons, the very next Kickstarter that I'm launching after Medusa is over is Dragon Grit number 2. Um, in fact, right before I got on this call with you, I spent about 4 hours packing and shipping out Dragon Grit number 1. Um, Still in the process. There's a lot of orders, so we're going through that because I got those comics just at the end of last week. So we've been sorting through them and packing them up. Um, so Dragon Grit 2 is coming. And then the next thing after that is this is kind of breaking news, I suppose, is that spin-off of Unicorn Vampire Hunter that is called Hedgehog Fear Trials. And that is about the littlest hedgehog warrior going through his final trial to become a paladin of the Marsh clan of hedgehogs.
I'm I'm so sold on that one. And as somebody like because I did back for Dragon Grit #1, so like hearing that #2 is coming out, or like so soon after that, like I can't tell you how many Kickstarters where like I will back a #1 and #2, like, oh, they launched that Kickstarter 2 years later, which I
Oh yeah.
get, life happens, but it's like, man, I've forgotten all about that.
One of the things that we planned from the beginning with Dragon Grit is Kay Woolheiser, who's the artist, incredible, very reliable, incredibly talented, incredibly nice to work with. She's cruising through. We are going to be launching as close to every 3 months as we can with the new issue of Dragon Grit. All 10 issues are already written, and we are just boom, boom, boom. She is fully devoted to Dragon Grit. We are, as soon as the Kickstarter is over, ordering those copies, getting them in hand, shipping them out. And hopefully after an issue or two where people see we're serious about that and we're like getting as basically as fast a turnaround time as we can. The only way we could do it faster is if we literally ordered the comics before the Kickstarter was over. But we got to know how many to order. So uh so yeah, we are super excited about it. It's a 10 issue series. It's written out. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for people to get issue 1 and then like less than a month after they get it, we're going to be launching #2.
Nice. So do you have any cons lined up in the near future?
I only have 2 this year. I'm waiting on a couple others to see if I'm going to get into any other shows, but for right now, um, I've got the Lilac City Comic Con, which is in Spokane, Washington. Now, by the time this airs, I think that will have already happened. It's as we are recording, it's happening in just a couple days. And then the other one I'm signed up for is LA Comic Con, which is in October, I think. And that one's I've never done before, but I was invited to go to that one, so I'm super excited to try something new. Um, and Yeah, I haven't been big in the cons lately. Like, obviously COVID shut everything down. I was really huge into going to cons before COVID, and it's just taken me a while. I kind of got out of the groove of applying for them and trying to get into different cons. So I'm trying to work my way back into that, especially now my library has grown a lot since before COVID. Before COVID, I only had a few things, which made it hard to do cons to be very successful at cons
Mm-hmm.
because if you only have a few floppy issues, it's hard. Even if people really like what you have, it's hard to make any money. um and so now I have a whole tray of graphic novels that I can put out, which is really exciting. In fact, the con that I'm going to this coming weekend, or maybe the previous weekend depending on when you're listening to this, um is uh is the first con that I'm going to go to where I have 3 complete graphic novels to put on the table, which is really exciting for me.
That's awesome. And just kind of looking at your your why am I blanking on the word? But like looking at your library, like you've got something for pretty much everybody. You've spanned a lot of different genres, which is, as somebody who goes to cons, to just throw all my money out, that is something nice.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Definitely been trying a lot of things, trying to do more, and a lot of the stuff I've been doing, people have received very warmly. Not everything, but but a lot of the stuff, and I think that's kind of just part of business. Not everything's a hit, but fortunately, I've been able to do some stuff that I think really the stars have really aligned in terms of stuff that I'm very passionate about doing and stuff that people seem to like. I mean, the fact that, my wife and I, our favorite mythological characters are unicorns and dragons, and my two most successful comic book series ever are about unicorns and dragons. I think just goes to show, like I'm doing what I'm passionate about, what I care about, and people are resonating with that.
So how can people find you online?
So, what you want to do is go to calebquist.com, because on that website you can sign up for my email newsletter, and that's the best way to keep in touch. I send out an email almost every single week. Sometimes I miss a week, but I almost always send out an update, and I usually give people advanced previews. Plus, people on my newsletter can get free stuff when they back Kickstarters. I have something called a secret menu reward program, where people on my newsletter answer surveys and they get free stickers and stuff on Kickstarters. You can find me on social media on Twitter, not Twitter, X, and Instagram. But if you find me there, I'm probably not going to post because I routinely forget that those things exist. And so I would say the website calebquist.com or unicornvampirehunter.com are the absolute best ways to keep track of what I'm doing.
All right, Caleb, one more time, give us the info on Modern Mythology Medusa and its Kickstarter.
Sure. Modern Mythology Medusa is a 40-page, double-sized, one-shot comic book that reimagines Medusa as a globe-trotting treasure hunter on a mission of revenge against Poseidon. And it is on Kickstarter until June 21st, which is a Friday. And you can pick it up along with Modern Mythology Hero's Journey and Modern Mythology Folklore Retold, which are each over 200-page anthologies of myths retold in the modern day.
All right, Caleb Palmquist, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. Best of luck with the Kickstarter.
Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for this episode of The Geek Awakens. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot us an email at thegeekawakenspodcast@gmail.com.
It would be a shame if you didn't follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Geek Awakens Podcast or on Twitter at Geek Awakens.
Theme music created and produced by E. Cannon Beats.
Our logo was designed by Shay McCain.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. We're boldly gone.